Alright. Some people have probably seen me a lot in BGs on this build, so they know what's up. I'm about to go deep on Werewolf. The race, as you can see, this beautiful bastard before you, is an Argonian. There's a few reasons for this. 1, 9% max health. 2, best sustained in PvP with the potion passive, which is going to be very important on a werewolf. The healing, obvious, no-brainer, and something that's kind of overlooked but not that important anyway. You also have disease and poisons resistance. I'll show you these. It's in the passives. Max magic, I really don't care about it at all. Poison and disease resistance, you don't get hit by the minors of poison and disease. Makes a slight difference. Now, the class is going to be Stamsork. And I'm going to tell you why. Unholy Knowledge. Reduce cost of your abilities, Magicka and Stam. That's going to be great in Werewolf. Your abilities cost a shit ton. Reduce the cost of your ultimate by 15%. Easier to get to your Werewolf. And here's the tree that really makes the money for the Werewolf. 10% more magic recovery. 5% physical damage. You have Implosion, which is a built-in execute. Those are huge. There's no better class for a werewolf. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about stamina DKs and their range. Doesn't matter. Go Stamsork, thank me later. Now, the werewolf itself, you have a choice between Pack Leader and Berserker. I am currently a Berserker. You get more on your bleeds, more damage. Pack Leader is good. It has its own set of benefits. The little wolves can be very good at body blocking, but they're really not required. Like I said, you can go either way. Both are really good. I flip back and forth. The food we're going to use in this build is going to be Tri-Stat food. The Tri-Stat food is required. I've tried a lot of different things, like running the Sultry's food. You gotta go Tri-Stat food. The magic is too important, non-negotiable. Just do it. Now, a lot of people, I see people all the time, they're like, I want to go werewolf on my two-hand. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Your weapon passives do not carry over in werewolf form. Werewolf acts as its own bar. So, things like bleeds off axes, things like crit off daggers, things like extra damage off swords, doesn't affect werewolf at all, doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if you do something like dual wield, you get 2 enchantments. So use dual wield. That's the most offensive you can go. Your only other option is sword and board. You get a little more resistances because the shield does give you the resistance and you get the extra stats like the max stam. So the 2 enchants I use, weapon damage and return stam. There's a lot of good enchants, especially with this patch right now. Those are the ones I use. You pretty much can't go wrong as long as you don't do something just completely crazy. Now, passives that require an ability on your bar. Like right now in human form, I have the Bound Armament skill. That gives me 20% more health and stamina recovery while it's slotted on my bar. As soon as I go werewolf, that is gone. Remember, werewolf is going to act like a third bar, so you're going to lose that. Alchemy passives, those are going to be required. You're going to have medicinal use. If you go into PvP, you should just have your medicinal use. There's nothing to say about it. Just get it. All your potion effects last longer. Just do it, especially if you're Argonian. No, just do it. Just fucking do it no matter what. How about that? Now, the sets that I use on my werewolf are exactly that. The sets that I use on my werewolf. You can use a lot of different sets and it will work. Werewolf is very versatile. You can build it in a lot of different ways. You can build it to do a lot of different things. The build I'm sharing is mine. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just what I like. If you want to change certain things on my build, go ahead. Knock yourself out. Do whatever you're most comfortable with. The monster sets, the number 1 pick is going to be the Pirate Skeleton. Gives you major protection and minor defile, which might seem like too much of a trade-off, but major protection is insane. As a werewolf, you already get a ton of resistances. It just makes you super tanky, super hard to kill. If you don't want to go the Pirate Skeleton route, My next best pick would be 1 Shootins and 1 Lord Warden. This will give you 2 resistance bonuses and will synergize best if you have a Warden support giving you the major resist already. And if you just know you're going to be playing by yourself, my third pick would be probably 2 Shootins. Gives you your major bonuses and it gives you a 1-piece resistance on top of that, as well as a little bit extra health, which will help your healing. The last choice I would go with would be the Troll King. The only stipulation to that is you have to use lingering health potions if you go that route, otherwise it's probably not going to proc enough for you to notice or to be worth it. If you are just hell-bent on going with a damage set, you have to use a damage set, you have to pull out the big dick deeps, and go Slime Crawl. Now, that might seem as a little bit of a shocker to some people, especially with all the PvE werewolf builds going out right now, and there's all the hype on Kina. Kina sucks. Let me explain something about Kina. Okay, look. Increases the cost of your abilities by 20%. Your cost of abilities on Werewolf is already too damn high for that, okay? You only get so many abilities before you're out of stamina anyway. Do not use Kina. It's trash. Absolute garbage. Don't use it. Keep it in PvE. Put it on the shelf. You know what? Transmute that shit to Divines because you never want to use that in PvP. Period. Terrible. Don't use it. Now, the main set for the build is going to be Green Pact. So, let's take a look here. I have Green Pact, Curse of the Green Pact. It's max health, health recovery, max health. When you have a food buff active, your max health is increased, and you get some health recovery. So the health recovery is nice, that's great, fantastic, awesome. But really, it's all about that max health. You're trying to stack as much max health as you can. That's going to be how you heal. The werewolf heal is actually based off of your health. Healing you for 70% of your max health. So you got to have a sturdy health pool before going into werewolf. That is super important. And what you're looking at right now is before Battle Spirit. I went ahead and I have Prismatic enchanted all of these pieces because, like I said, your max health, super important, and having that extra magic pool, going back to the tri-stat food, you gotta have magic, that's gonna be super important. That's obviously a little counterintuitive because most people think werewolf and they're like, damage, 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 damage. Trust me, you have enough damage, you need to be able to survive. Now, speaking of damage, my other set is the Automaton set. Crit max stam weapon damage and adds weapon damage to your physical abilities. The biggest problem with auto is the 5-piece doesn't buff your healing on most builds, but in werewolf, your heal is based off your health, so that doesn't matter at all. Your physical damage is every single one of your abilities besides the claws, which are disease damage. And still the initial hit of that I think is still physical damage anyway, so this is going to buff your damage in a big way. So this is my go-to damage set. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on the best damage set, and honestly there's probably better sets out there, especially right now. I just prefer to have a set like this. This is how I like it. It does a lot of damage for me. It works for me. That's how I roll. Now, the werewolf itself, just real quick if we look at some of the passives. So you get increased movement speed, increase the stamina, your heavy attacks restored by 100%. That is massive. Get used to heavy attacking. You're going to be doing it a lot. Blood Rage, they changed this where you have to do damage to stay in werewolf. It can be a pain at times, but it's just how it is. So that's why we went with Feral Pounce, but we'll get to that. So this is probably the big passive everyone looks at. Savage Strength, increase your weapon damage by 18% and your spell and physical resistance by 10,000. This is going to make you insanely tanky, and that passive is where people usually go off in the wrong direction. They see 18% weapon damage and they're like, well, let's just stack weapon damage, it'll be amazing. Yeah, you'll hit hard, but you'll hit hard one time, run out of stamina, and die. So use this a little bit, but not all of it. And that's just more werewolves staying longer. So the actual abilities that I use in werewolf, we use Feral Pounce. That's going to keep you in form longer. You have to use this. I wish you didn't have to, but if you play werewolf at all, you will quickly find out you have to have this mark just to stay in werewolf. This one, Hircine's Fortitude, is kind of up for debate, but 70% of your max health is a lot. That is a huge heal. And again, Werewolf doesn't struggle with damage. If you want Major Brutality, there's other ways to get it through potions. So, in my opinion, gotta go Fortitude. Too good to pass up. This is another controversial kind of decision, the Deafening Roar. I've played around with both of the roars. I recently have chosen to go with this roar specifically because it's the cost to use it. The off balance is a great buff, debuff, however you want to call it. But you have to get a lot of things to line up in order to really make use of it. And most of the time, it just doesn't work out. And with the hit detection on Werewolf and the heavy attacks, you really just... it's not really worth it. This one, you just fire it off, don't have to think about it. It does the Major Fracture, and that's going to boost all your damage by like 8% or something like that. It's going to be really strong, really easy, simple. Howl of Agony. This one, there's actually a really good reason to use the other morph now. It does buff the light attacks of your allies by a lot. The fact is, I just don't play with other people very often on this build. I do sometimes, but not most of the time. I'm by myself, so there's no point for me to buff somebody else's light attacks. No, I'm gonna do this one. Deals 30 more damage to enemies that are feared. And Claws of Anguish. This is the Major Defile version. The other version heals you. 4 seconds isn't a long time, but you still put a lot of pressure on someone when they're defiled, because you have all your bleeds. Your light attacks like inherently just do shit tons of damage, so that's going to be huge. So just to give you guys an example, look at the stat sheet. Once we go Werewolf, I'll give you a little preview. This is what we're looking like before we go Werewolf. And another thing about Stamsork, if you get your Hurricane and Crit Surge, those will stay up for your first few seconds of Werewolf. And now let's go ahead and proc our glyphs. So without Major Brutality, we're sitting at 4k weapon damage, 36k max stam, 27, almost 28k health. That'll get another 5k health once we go into an actual fight. Got 28k resistance, and that is not including the major protection that you will get for using Pirate Skeleton. So, that's pretty much it. I think I'm just going to cut it there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. You can find me in Scourge Alliance Discord or on YouTube probably. See ya!